A P1 listener has gone inside Tom Hanks movies. A theory I've never heard before. The other day, we had Tom Hanks on. He was saying, well, we didn't have him on. We did not.
Had his voice.
Had his voice on, and he was asked, what are your favorite 3 Tom Hanks movies? And if I was asked that question, I would say Captain Phillips. Golly. Big, I love. Splash, I love. Forrest Gump, I love. There's a bunch, that I really like a lot of his movies. Forrest Gump would definitely be in my top 5 or so. But there is a P1 named Tim who says, I heard you all talking about Tom Hanks movies, and I wanted to share a theory that nobody I know agrees with, but I'm sure I'm dead on about it. It's about Forrest Gump.
About Gump itself?
About Gump itself. Tom Hanks named Castaway because he was able to film on an island with his family.
He lived in Fiji while they were shooting it.
A League of Their Own because he played baseball all summer. This was the kind of thing. And Cloud Atlas because he was surrounded by German history. They shot in Germany, and he enjoyed that trip because his family got to go on. So nothing we would know about, but it was about filming for him.
Right.
But Tim says, I watched Forrest Gump, and I realized the last time I watched it that Jenny pulled off something that I've never caught, and I think it's the most brilliantly written, subtle twist of all time in any movie. See if any of you agree with my theory here. He says, I've always felt that Jenny, that's Forrest's girlfriend, that he loved from kindergarten on, remember he got on the bus, is one of the greatest villains ever created. She used and manipulated Forrest through the entire movie. And it was worse because she manipulated not just her friend, but someone of slow mental aptitude, which is true. She used Forrest in my theory. She used Forrest in her final days in the worst possible way. I think she lied to him about little Forrest being his son. Little Forrest is played by the kid from The Sixth Sense, and at the end of the movie, she says he's yours, and he was like 6 years old or so. Here's my evidence of it: the one night ever that Forrest and Jenny spent together, we just assumed the two had sex. They shared a kiss, and then she slithered into bed. And there's an implication that the two had sex. But Forrest didn't really know what sex was. He had issues. He was like a little boy. He didn't know what it was. He was a virgin to that point. I think she lied to him. This is Tim talking now. I think she lied to him 6 years later, because Jenny died from AIDS, and there's no mention of Forrest being checked out for AIDS ever. Wouldn't she be concerned about his health? I think Jenny knew that Forrest was okay because they never had sex. And she got pregnant by some random guy, knew that Forrest would be a good father, had the means to raise the child well, dropped him on the doorstep as she was dying of AIDS. That's quite a theory.
It's possible.
She did that. It's possible.
I know it was a book before it was a movie. I wonder if it is addressed in
I don't know.
what we like to call the source material.
I doubt it.
And there was a sequel too, right?
To Forrest Gump? The book had
a sequel. I'm sorry. Not the movie.
I heard they never could make the movie sequel into a good plot. They never could get the script right, and Tom Hanks would not agree to do it.
No.
And there's no way you can do that movie without Tom Hanks.
No.
And he's too old now.
Yeah.
Well,
So
unless you do it
with
with his kid.
Colin. You do Colin Hanks, I guess.
Yeah, or
oh, no, not Chad. Not
Forrest, Little Forrest.
Oh, Little Forrest.
The Little Forrest story.
Yeah. But that's not, I don't know if that's the sequel to the book.
I don't either.
I guess they could. Maybe Chet Hanks could play.
Chet.
Put him in Jamaica.
Yeah. Beagle.
Jamaica Forest.
Like you like your bacon chocolate.
You want a chocolate, man? Yeah. You
The
never
whole
know
island.
you don't know what you're going to get, man.
I'm not a smart man.
Jeff, you're talking about Jenny. Tim's theory is that she's a diabolical villain here, and that Little Forrest is not Forrest's son. Go ahead.
Well, I think she is a villain, but if you read the second book, she actually died from Hep C, not AIDS.
Oh, really? Oh, I always assumed AIDS. I think they lead you to that in the movie. Don't you
They
think?
do sort of lead you that way.
I mean, they show a needle at one point.
But she has a line in the movie like, I'm sick. Doesn't she say, am I right, Jeff, in the movie, don't they sort of intimate it's the early 80s and we're not sure what it is and it's AIDS, right? I mean, they think it's that, right?
Well, she just says she's sick, but if you read the second book, it's Hep C from the needle use.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I hated that about her. Poor thing. She had that bad upbringing with her father.
Yeah, she was abused.
Yeah, it was terrible. Her father was so horrible. I just hated the way she turned out, because she was so sweet early on, and Forrest befriended her. Bob, you're talking about Forrest Gump. Go ahead.
Your man's theory is BS. He needs a life. He needs a job. He needs a girlfriend. The first thing Forrest asked about little Forrest is if he was okay, and she's told him the doctor said he was. Jenny loved him all the way through. She even told him to run in Vietnam. It's the greatest love story there ever was.
I do love it. I love it, but I think what Tim is saying is not that little Forrest needs to be checked, but that Forrest himself, Tom Hanks' character, needs to be checked for AIDS, because they had...
But if she didn't know what it was, why would she say that?
Oh, yeah, it is early 80s. You're not sure. That's right. You don't... At that time, we didn't know.
Well, she'd have said, I'm sick, Forrest.
Yeah.
In fact, even back then, they called it a type of cancer.
Yeah. They did. They didn't know. Well, but like by the time Rock Hudson had died,
That's when it really
came to fruition. Right? Okay, Bob, that's a... You love this movie.
Gruff but passionate.
Hey, defend it, man.
Don't come at the greatest love story ever told.
Don't at Forrest around him.
The way Forrest defends Jenny.
Or don't at Jenny.
I like that passion, Bob. Good for you. Defend that movie. That's right. Tim, you're an idiot to think something. What kind of theory is that? Brent, you're talking about Forrest Gump now, and Tim's theory that little Forrest is not Forrest baby and that Jenny got one over on him. Go ahead.
Well, if you think back, girls' school, and he went and visited her, he sort of caught a Woody and premature ejaculated.
He did that at the girls' school. That's right. But that's not the time that they... He's right. There's a scene there.
That missed.
Rough scene at the girls' school. Do you know what he's talking about in the movie?
The roommate is in the other bed.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And
because she takes off her bra, and he's like, Jenny.
Yeah.
And then you see,
That's all he ever said.
Which, frankly, is maybe the most uncomfortable scene ever in a movie, because I'm sure the director was like, all right, now say her name, and then act squirrely.
Yeah.
Because you see him kind of like, oh.
What's happening to me?
Well, you got to do that with a room full of people filming you. I know
God.
these guys, they are professional actors, but that had to be weird.
Yeah.
You're sitting next to a topless woman, and it's like, all right, now pretend to... You know what I
Now,
mean, man?
you will get nominated for an Oscar.
Don't
Don't worry.
He won it.
And
Yeah, he
you'll
won
win.
it.
He won them.
He may have won it for that.
That's right.
Say her name and then just kind of fiddle around. Jenny.
Who hadn't done that?
Uncomfortable.
That's right. I forgot about that scene. So he knew a little something.
I don't think you can sit there and say that he didn't know about sex.
Even though he had
I don't know that-
capacity.
Maybe not the first night.
Yeah, maybe not that first night, but on
At the
down the
girls' school.
line when she came to his house.
But see, that's the only time he ever had sex. She's gone the next morning.
I know she
gone, that's it.
takes a cab and leaves, but
I mean, we assume he was a virgin until that moment, don't you think?
I would
I
think
do.
so.
And then he has sex
because he
with
had
her.
chances to have sex with other women with the Lieutenant Dan in New York. Remember
that's
on
right.
New Year's Eve, he
She
had women
tastes
hanging
like
all over.
cigarettes. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, those girls were hookers for the most part.
They were. That's another scene. Big. She tastes like cigarettes. She was on top of it.
Yeah.
That's a tough
Yeah.
one for poor Tom Hanks. Had to go through. He deserved that Oscar. You know, a lot of people said that one.
Yeah.
He had gotten Philadelphia the year before, and then Forrest Gump. They said, "Come on, really?" But I think he deserved it.
Was he nominated the following year for
Apollo 13? Could have won
But did
3 in a
not
row.
win.
Didn't win. That's right.
But Jenny was thinking. I mean, she knew that he wanted that he loved her.
Yes.
She couldn't really fall in love with him the way he was. If
Yeah.
you think about it.
So she
I mean, it'd be
wanted-
nice to think of. At least give him something.
Do you
Gi-
think she
give him
wa-
the kid?
Well, do you think she wanted? But she was never going to tell him about the child until she got sick, right? Maybe she wanted a kid.
Correct.
I think she wanted a kid, and it's like, I'll use Forrest to get the kid.
Yeah, and that way Forrest will always have something of me, so
Yeah,
he won't
well,
be
yeah.
by himself.
Well, right. Okay, yeah. Heroin Scott.
Yeah, have a good day.
Heroin Scott, you wanted to comment on Forrest Gump. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was about as bad as the movie as the Titanic. Those are two of the most boring movies. There's nothing exciting to happen in either one of them. The Titanic, you know exactly what's happening. There's no suspense, nothing.
He's atting you, Kelly.
You know how I feel about both
That's
those.
your 1 and 1A.
No, you
Yes.
don't. How can you say that to me? How can you say those words?
Well, let me ask this: what's your favorite?
What
movie?
are your movies?
What's the best? What makes it a movie a good movie?
Well, suspense, some mystery, some intrigue.
Well, wait a minute. You can't.
Well, in fairness, we never knew when Jenny was coming or going.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's mystery.
Secondly,
It was always like, well, look who's back. What'd you do now, Jenny?
but in Titanic, you don't know what's going to happen with Rose and Jack. That's the suspense.
Who cares?
I am.
Bring on the water.
Who cares? I care. That's who cares. Oh my God, I love Titanic. What a love story. What's your favorite movie, Heroin Scott?
My favorite movie I've always said is I love Scarface, Reservoir Dogs, and Pulp Fiction. But I'm also a big horror buff.
I can't argue with any of those movies that you just named. Now, Scarface I've only seen once when I was younger, but
it's a long, hot mess.
Yeah.
It's got some great moments.
But Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction are unbelievable.
Plenty of shooting in there.
Oh, yeah. Some suspense in both
Yeah,
of
good
those
bit of
two.
blood. Almost.
All right, Heroin Scott. We're going to have to agree to disagree. Now, hold me back on that. You're going to go after Forrest Gump and then Titanic, David.
Well,
David.
we all have our.
He just wobbled on his feet like a boxer.
You know,
You need to get louder around there. You need to support me on this one
You're
now.
doing fine by yourself.
No,
People
good.
like what they like
I know they do, but you
and
can't
hate what they hate.
Don't you come at Forrest Gump and Titanic. And listen, we're talking about Forrest Gump. There's no need to drag Jack and Rose into this, okay?
Yeah, I
This
mean
is something
that had a really good story behind it. Titanic. I mean,
Thank
Forrest
you.
Gump was
Which is a better movie?
Titanic.
You think?
I think. Yeah, I mean, of course, it is more action, of course, and it's
I don't know. Sophie's
It's
Choice.
historical.
Yeah, gosh, Sophie's Choice. P1, you're talking about Forrest Gump. Go ahead.
Yes. He was not oblivious. You guys are talking about sex. He totally knew that his mom was banging his doctor.
I don't know.
I don't know how much he knew.
He just sort of mimicked the sound.
He just knew what he heard.
Yeah.
Remember, he went the. He did a lot of that.
Your mama doesn't care about your education.
No, he said, "Your mama sure love you, boy."
Is that, I thought it was about his education. Okay, yeah.
Your mama sure love you, and he's wiping off his brow and stuff.
Yeah.
As he comes
But he
out.
did have that weird reaction at the girls' school. I mean, that was like a rookie.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. Jeez, poor Forrest. I feel bad for him in that one. That's a rough scene.
yeah.
Whew,
Cut. Do it again.
What again?
Bring in the dry drawers.